haven't, I recommend that you do. Because in 1995, a year after Nelson Mandela became president of South Africa hosted the World Cup. Now, we're in Argentina, and Argentina, I think, has just beaten South Africa at rugby. So you know what I'm talking about when I speak about rugby in this nation. South Africa had this proud history, but of course rugby was associated with the most extreme right-wing elements of white South African society. And Mandela was faced with the challenge of, firstly, whether to host the World Cup, and secondly, to whether he should retain some of the symbols of apartheid. And one of the principal symbols of apartheid was the green and gold jersey and the name, the Springboks. And what Mandela did in essence, and I'm not going to go into detail, but he selected one individual, Francois Pienaar, the captain of the Springbok rugby team. Francois Pienaar was Afrikaans, and perhaps at face value was someone associated with the apartheid regime and white privilege and a sense of racial superiority. But what he did with Francois Pienaar is he trusted him. He took him on board and started communicating with Francois Pienaar. And Francois Pienaar was a young man. Although he was a brilliant rugby player, he wasn't necessarily a great diplomat or someone who could communicate with the rest of white society. And Invictus tells the magnificent story of how Mandela transformed the thinking of Francois Pienaar and used him as this wonderful positive instrument to reach out to hundreds of thousands of white South Africans who were incredibly skeptical. So Mandela trusted Pienaar. He trusted a young person who many other people would not trust to be this key instrument in transforming South Africa. The second thing he did is he trusted himself. He achieved this unique balance. Once again, if you remember the film Invictus, you will recall that Mandela faced a lot of opposition within his own ranks, within the ranks of the ANC, of the black nationalist movement. But he trusted his instincts. He achieved this incredible balance of remaining humble, but of knowing what was right, and being honest with people about his own insecurities, being honest about the fact that he could not do this on his own. And in that way, he developed this remarkable bond and transformed South Africa in 1995. He quelled violence, and he started South Africa on this magnificent course that it follows even to this day, with all its problems. And, you know, when we look back on South Africa, we might now say, well, it was obvious, it was inevitable. I can remember in 1989, living in Zimbabwe and looking south to South Africa and wondering how South Africa could ever avoid a conflagration of monumental proportions. And what we take for granted today needs to be put in that context of a seemingly impossible situation transformed into a democracy and a stable country. The second example is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln, as you know, was a gangly person who'd lost several elections prior to becoming president. He came to power at the epicenter of America's greatest crisis, the Civil War. Many people were skeptical about him. They were skeptical about whether he would have the ability to transform America. And he did something quite remarkable. His first act was to create a team of rivals. There's a wonderful book called A Team of Rivals, which speaks about what Lincoln he brought in all his rivals, the people who had contested against him in the American presidential election. Instead of shunning them, he had the courage to trust them, to bring them on board, even though they had been his rivals. And he trusted himself. He trusted his own judgment in that regard. And in doing so, he created this remarkable team of talent that was able to steer America through and win the Civil War, and ultimately ensured that the Union of America was protected and would continue. So I feel that those two examples for me have been inspirational, and I've tried to apply those examples in running the ministry. And I feel that that example can be used at every level, whether you are a minister and run a ministry, or whether you are a head teacher, or whether you are a head of department. There are certain principles of leadership which apply to your situation. So how did I apply that to my own situation? Well, the first thing I did on coming into office was to call my senior leadership. And I did two things. I said, firstly, that what I knew about education was positively dangerous. I made that admission. I said, I'm a lawyer. What I know about education is dangerous. What I know about you is that you have the qualifications that we need to take this forward. But we need to have a relationship of trust. You need to trust me that I will chart a course that will be in the best interests of children. And I need to trust you in your educational qualifications. Having met with my senior civil servants, I then turned to the next body, which of course was critical in getting the education system up, namely the trade union movement. I summoned the leaders of the three main trade unions in the country, and my first act with them was to take them to the Minister of Finance. I called a meeting with the Minister of Finance, and I asked him to go through the finer detail of government's books of account, so that I could show these trade unions that actually what we were saying about the parlous state of finances wasn't just political speak, but was reality. I then also said to them that leadership would have to come from the top. I told them that I was getting a salary of $100 a month. Teachers would get a salary of $100 a month. I broke with tradition in declining a fancy new ministerial vehicle so that they could see that we were on the same side. And I then implored them to, in turn, go to their members, to their teachers' unions, to persuade them that they needed to act in the best interests of children. And they did. We established that trust. They persuaded their teachers to come back to school on the promise of $100 a month salary indefinitely. And within 3 weeks, we had 90,000 teachers back in the system. I then declared an amnesty for those teachers who deserted their posts without any questions asked, and we got 15,000 of the 20,000 teachers who deserted back into the system. But I want to come back to these two key elements of trusting others and trusting yourself. The element of of trusting others means that you have to let go. One of the great dangers of leadership in this world is, it strikes me, that we know it all. To that extent, I found the fact that I wasn't an educationalist an advantage, because I couldn't fool myself into thinking that I knew all the answers. And I think that one of the dangers that we face is that the more degrees we have, the more professorships we have, the more we think that we can do it on our own. And the starting point has to be, in every situation, whether you are a minister or a head teacher, in recognizing we don't know. The people around us have unique talents, and that if one can act in granting autonomy to others, in creating a team, that one has a much better chance of resolving any situation. But to do that requires trust in oneself. And I think part of our human nature strikes me that one of the greatest, and I'm no psychologist, but one of the greatest problems that mankind faces is insecurity. It seems to me that often people hide their sense of insecurity by creating layers around themselves of bravado, of a false intellect. And it is critical to go beyond that, to recognize and to be vulnerable to others, to explain to others some of those deeper thoughts that we have, to express to others that we don't have all the answers, and that a solution to a particular set of problems can only be found by working together. So what I want to do now is, having given that broad take on the situation, what I'd like to do is to focus in on unique problems that perhaps head teachers face in dealing with their subordinates, heads of department, and to get it. I don't want this to be a monologue. I'd like it to be more of a dialogue this afternoon. So let me pose the following question. Is there a danger in exposing one's own frailties? Is there a danger that can destroy trust in a leader?
I think there is a danger. If you are promoting trust without control, there is a danger. But if there is control, there's a way, there is a danger.
So it's a unique balance, isn't it? Because if one goes too far, then you lose the trust in your subordinates to manage a situation. And so there needs to be that balance.
If you are going to speak about the microphone, so yes, translation.
A leader in equals. You are not looking for an almighty leader. Then you can unleash your freedom, and you will be accompanied by others who work together.
What I'd also like to look at is the issue of granting autonomy. To what extent one can grant subordinates autonomy. Because obviously there are extremes to that. If one grants too much autonomy, one loses control, and there's that need for that balance.
Something that I find interesting is also take into consideration, in this case of sharing, how far or how open is the person who is currently at that leader position into transfer it to another, or maybe that fear influences in how much you share, in terms of maybe between your team, there's people who among you manages or has better control in those weak points that you have, and comes out as the new leader. So maybe that plays a role in this danger, or this notion of danger.
Gracias por su exposición. A ver si... Aquí en Argentina me gustaría aprovechar este rato para hacerle una pregunta un poco más circunstancial. No estamos en una situación tan extrema como en Zimbabue, pero tenemos momentos difíciles ahora, ¿no? Y la educación, yo no soy un hombre de educación tampoco, pero sí estoy en grupos de asesoramiento educativo. Se puede como ver una cierta retórica que viene una y otra vez hablando de nuevos programas. Cada uno quiere hacer una revolución educativa. La situación del país más o menos es una cosa estable, es un país que tiene muchísimas ventajas educativas, pero también graves dificultades. En Argentina tenemos los dos extremos. Se puede decir que estamos en una situación difícil, aunque quizá no tanto como esos extremos de inflación que había en esa época en África, en Zimbabue. Pero, ¿cuál sería una visión de afuera si usted tuviera que asumir, sin conocer, una parte protagónica en la educación argentina? ¿Cuál sería probablemente la confianza, ¿verdad? Pero, ¿cómo mejorar el sistema con lo que ya tenemos? ¿Cuál sería una propuesta? O cómo estudiar, cómo acercarnos a una solución que pueda servirnos como para ver con optimismo y no como una reforma imposible de realizar, lo que tenemos por delante. Gracias.
Thank you for your question. I think one can draw on not just the Zimbabwean example, but it seems to me that a mistake that ministers make throughout the world is by having far too much confidence in their own ability, and they run ahead of certainly the civil servants around them, and they certainly run ahead of educational professionals. What I did, one of the first things I did was to create an education advisory board, and I brought on leading educationists to that board and the heads of our teacher trade unions. And before any policy was implemented, I had an extensive program of consultation with all the players in the education sector. And also, I recognise that although I had certain policy objectives myself, it was critically important that I didn't rush ahead without building a broad-based consensus in the formulation of that policy. I don't want to name names, but it seems to me that there are some ministers, I have one in mind in Europe, for example, who was an exceptionally talented and well-educated education minister, but ran ahead of the teaching profession, and sought to implement policies in his country, which may have been good in theory, but because he lost the support and didn't build that consensus, a lot of controversy resulted. I don't obviously know the situation in Argentina, but the one lesson that I would learn from my own experience in Zimbabwe is that even though, as I say, my knowledge of education is positively dangerous, because I relied on professionals and had this extensive process of consultation to build a national consensus, when it came to the implementation of the policies that we did implement, there wasn't that controversy, and there was that, as I say, broad consensus. So I suppose, without knowing your own peculiar situation in Argentina, that in my mind would be critical. Let me just also say that perhaps the obvious to educationists here, but the most important aspect of, the most important component of any education system, of course, is your teacher body. One can have the finest curriculum, you can have all the money in the world, but without building a consensus with the teacher body, you are doomed to failure. Let me give you a practical example. In Zimbabwe, one of the things I started was a process of curriculum review, but was never able to finish it. My successor, who took over from me in 2013, who had been my deputy from a different party, continued that process, but he ran ahead of the teaching profession. He developed a new curriculum in the country, but did not build that consensus with the teaching profession. He didn't engage the teaching profession. He made no provision, for example, of the retraining of teachers to teach that curriculum. And it has been a total disaster. In fact, we've almost got to go back to square one. And that minister lost his job, and his time ended in ignominy. And I think it's a very good example of the need for intense collaboration. And my experience often was quite a frustrating one. One of the other things I sought to do, and this is my legal bent coming in, was that we had a body of legislation relating to education that had been developed over decades and was, quite frankly, shambolic. And what I wanted to do was to synchronize that legislation and bring it into one piece of legislation which would be logical. One of my policy goals was to grant as much autonomy to not just private schools, but also to government schools. And that turned out to be a major sticking point in my process of consultation with civil servants in trying to come up with this new body of legislation. And it was such a controversial point that I was never actually able, at the end of my tenure, to produce this new act and new regulations, which was deeply frustrating to me. But I understood that had I ran through my own legislation, and I had the advantage in doing so as a lawyer, it would have created so much controversy within the education sector that it just wasn't worthwhile doing. So it's a long way of answering your question, but in my mind, for any education sector, whether it's Argentina or Zimbabwe, you have to build a team, you have to consult, you have to build this consensus. And my own experience was, it's remarkable what obstacles can be overcome if you do that, even with the profound lack of knowledge that I had personally. Any other discussion? Would you like me to go into more detail? I think part of the problem with the Zimbabwean experience is that the problems were so extreme that they don't really apply to many of your situations.
No, con relación a la confianza, ¿no? Y hasta dónde un líder, ¿no? En mi humilde criterio, creo que el líder tiene que generar un espíritu democrático en el grupo, tiene que consensuar, creo que nunca puede guardar información, tiene que socializar toda la información que llegue desde donde sea, midiendo cómo, pero nunca puede ocultar información, porque esto genera realmente un espíritu democrático, pero también creo que un líder tiene que delegar con la certeza de encontrar a quién y cómo y por qué. Creo que tiene que seguir la delegación constantemente y siempre saber que la responsable y única es el líder. Delegar no implica no reconocer la responsabilidad y decir, bueno, fue la responsable. El líder es el responsable primero y último, y en la delegación hay que hacer seguimiento, ¿no? Y yo creo en la autonomía de las personas, creo que el líder tiene que ser uno más dentro del grupo, tiene que acompañar, creo que es así. Yo tuve una experiencia de liderazgo durante 25 años y para formar equipos creo en estas cosas, ¿no? Y también asumir con humildad que nunca es poder, sino es servicio. El mayor liderazgo es la capacidad de servicio sobre los alumnos, sobre los docentes y sobre los padres, sobre la comunidad. Creo que es así, creo.
I think that you've raised a really important point. If one delegates, not just the function but also responsibility, one is bound to fail. As a leader, one delegates but you retain responsibility. So that if the person you've delegated the function to fails, that is in fact your failure. And it is a critical principle of leadership. You have to trust people, not just use their expertise, but they have to trust you, that you will stand by them.
Thank you for the great introduction. The question is, if you want to trust all around, so you trust in your associates, they trust in you, how do you secure that you have the same vision? So you happen to be in a situation when you had $300,000 in National Bank. So you had no time to speak about the vision, to have brainstormings and different sessions. But you knew that you had to go in some direction. How did you know?
Thank you. You've saved me, because you're going to take me on a whole new direction now, which I hope will be of interest to you. All of you no doubt have heard of Robert Mugabe, the leader of Zimbabwe for 37 years. Robert Mugabe was president of the cabinet when I came into cabinet. And he and I had been protagonists for 37 years. As a human rights lawyer, I had criticized him. He had publicly declared me to be an enemy of the state. And so when this inclusive government was formed, Robert Mugabe was very anxious about the fact that I was going to become Minister of Education. Bear in mind that he was a teacher himself. And to give credit to him, in the first 10 years after independence, Robert Mugabe transformed Zimbabwe's education system, which had been created primarily to support a white minority. And he broke the bottleneck and expanded education, and internationally is recognized as having done a very good job. So he wasn't just president, he was someone who was passionate about the education system. And so for all our political conflict that existed between us, he had a genuine concern about a white lawyer, bearing in mind the racial component, a white human rights lawyer coming in to resuscitate the education system that he was so proud of historically. And you can imagine the very tense relationship that existed between us. I viewed him as a tyrant, someone who had oppressed human rights, and he viewed me as perhaps a white racist with absolutely no knowledge of education. And so it was a very difficult, complex relationship. And yet we had to build that common vision that you speak about, with these high levels of trust that existed both ways. And I recognized this fairly early, that unless I got Robert Mugabe on board with me, I would be frustrated at every turn in the implementation of my own policy goals. And it took a long time. But what I did with Mugabe was that I demanded one-on-one meetings with him. And I kept bringing the conversation back to the obvious, to children. And I stressed to my own subordinates that I wanted the education ministry to be the least political of all ministries. And I spoke to them constantly about children. What were we going to do in the best interests of children? And through a very dogged process that lasted months, in fact, went into years, I eventually developed a functional relationship with my nemesis, with Robert Mugabe, to such an extent that by midway through my 4.5-year term, he backed me totally. Let me give you a practical example. One of the problems that I faced as minister was that when I started out, the average pupil textbook ratio was 1 textbook to 15 children. That's how I started out. In fact, in many schools, the only textbook in a classroom was the one that the teacher had. I developed a very close working relationship with UNICEF, and I mobilized a substantial amount of money to get textbooks printed. But a further problem that I faced was a cartel. We had 3 publishing houses in the country, and this cartel got together and in essence collaborated in putting tenders forward, which were going to result in the cost of the initial tender being increased by $10 million US. And so in collaboration with UNICEF, with the director of UNICEF, I made quite a controversial decision, education, in that I decided to, with UNICEF, to put this tender for books out to commercial tender. In other words, that we would go for the cheapest textbook, not necessarily the textbook that each particular school would want to use. And that commercial tender was done by UNICEF. It was done in Copenhagen and in Denmark. And one of the publishing companies, one of the three, got the tender. You can imagine from an educational perspective how controversial that was. Because you'd have 3 maths textbooks, for example, that were used, and now there was going to be 1 maths textbook used, published by the one company. It so happened that the company which won the tender had links to an American company, the same company that provided textbooks in Iraq and Afghanistan. Now you can imagine in the context of Zimbabwe, the highly political, the volatile context of the Zimbabwean situation. Oh, and one other fact. One of the companies that lost the tender was closely linked to Robert Mugabe's party. And they were, of course, very angry about the process that I had employed. And immediately there was a political campaign to say that what I had done was part of a regime change agenda. Zimbabwe, Iraq, Afghanistan, and stories started to appear in the papers, and eventually it came to cabinet. And some of my opponents in Robert Mugabe's party had a night of the long knives, and he said, bear in mind, I was the only white member of cabinet. And here we had granted this tender in Copenhagen to a company with American links that had supplied books to Iraq and Afghanistan. And the allegation was that I was now part of this worldwide conspiracy. And the allegation as well, to give it some sting, was that I had taken a little backhander to get UNICEF to grant the tender. So it got very, very hostile. We had this debate in cabinet, and Mugabe remained quiet throughout the debate. He listened as minister after minister from his own party set out what I just described to you, and made this allegation in my presence that I was part of this nefarious regime change agenda. At the end of the cabinet meeting, Mugabe spoke up and he said, isn't it correct that Minister Coulthard had nothing to do with the tender? Yes. Isn't it correct that UNICEF conducted the commercial tender in Copenhagen and Minister Coulthard was nowhere near? Isn't it correct that the company that was granted the tender is printing textbooks that we have used in Zimbabwe for the last 20 years? And of course the answer was yes. And so he then concluded by saying, I found no merit in the allegations leveled against David Coulthard. And so our relationship got from this highly antagonistic relationship to a relationship at the end of the day when he actually protected me and had my back. And we went from strength to strength, and it is a remarkable sub-story that this person, and if I had time to go into all the battles that Robert Mugabe and I have had on a whole range of other issues, it's a very practical demonstration of even in that situation, if you take the time to go and speak to your protagonist, and if you focus on ultimately what all of us should be involved in, the interests of children, you can break through these barriers and develop a common vision. And so by the end of my tenure, Robert Mugabe was totally behind what I was trying to do with the curriculum, totally behind some of my ideas of developing academies of excellence for disadvantaged children. And we had this common vision. And I think that can apply, if that can apply at ministerial and presidential level, it can certainly apply at the level of a school where perhaps a head has a very difficult teacher or parent to deal with. to deal with. There is nothing like face-to-face communication and coming back to the common ground. And the common ground often between a head and a parent or a teacher is the child concerned, causes so much emotion. And thank you for that question. You saved me because really appreciate the opportunity that you've given me.
Le agradecemos enormemente a David porque nos contó toda su experiencia, el foco en la confianza como uno de los ejes fundamentales para este movimiento de transformar escuelas. Los invitamos ahora a almorzar.
Yo igual me parece muy tranquilo porque te la jugada.
Are we done here now? Yes, we're done. Well, we're coming back to the closing
los seres humanos los conocimientos y la experiencia acumulada a lo largo de generaciones. La forma típica de esa transmisión fue oral, hasta la creación de la escritura. Hace solo 7.000 años, los humanos dejamos registros escritos del conocimiento, lo que facilitó su enseñanza. Fue la primera gran revolución educativa. Hacia 1440, Gutenberg inventa la imprenta y el registro escrito se difunde mecánicamente en panfletos, diarios y libros. Pero los impresos requerían de gente que lo supiera leer, y en 1657 Comenius diseña la tecnología que va a lograrlo, la escuela, la segunda gran revolución educativa. Con la escuela nace la pansofía, todo el saber humano es para, y en la crítica a la institución escolar olvidamos un detalle. La escuela, datos y evidencias del presente nos permiten imaginar otros futuros posibles para la educación.
Bueno,